G'day, I'm Paul. When you think of SUVs and 7-seat SUVs, you don't always think of that, which is the Lexus RX. And I don't know why. Everyone always thinks about its competitors, which are the BMW X5, the Mercedes-Benz GLE, and the Audi Q7. But I thought we'd give this one a test today. This is the top specification non-hybrid. It's called the RX350L. The L means that it's the longer version with 7 seats. This is priced from a little over $100,000, but the entire range, if that's a little too expensive, kicks off at a little over 70 grand. Today we're going to do a detailed review of this car. If you want to skip ahead to other parts of the review, you've got time codes up on the screen, or if you're on YouTube, scroll down and use the chapters below. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe, bell icon, and you will know every single time we publish a review of something you don't see all that often. Let's talk about exterior. So you have 9 colors to pick from. All but black is a ridiculous almost $2,000 extra. I mean, I don't really understand how this paint is any different to the paint they use on a Toyota, which is much cheaper. But anyway, that is the price of picking a color that isn't black. Let's talk about the design. Look, there is a lot going on here, and I think Lexus was the OG of the big grille. I think BMW has now well and truly taken over that title, but have a look at this. It is a monster grille, and it's interesting because this doesn't look as ghastly as it does on the BMW cars. So I don't know what it is about this, but it just looks kind of okay. It's got the same design on the front end there as the LC that we reviewed a while back. So it's got that sort of 3D cutout where it comes down and then tucks back in on itself. And you've got this sort of waterfall grille down the front there with a big Lexus logo. Chrome highlights around the front there as well. Fog lights down the bottom. You have a set of full LED headlights. These have an adaptive beam as well with an LED daytime running lights. Around the side here, you have a set of 20-inch alloy wheels. Nice design as well. It's quite classy and very Lexus, if that's a thing. So it looks very premium and high-end, and I don't know, it just makes you feel good about spending 100 grand on your SUV. You've got these wheel arch protectors just here. Up on the top, you have a little bit more of that chrome garnish with an indicator built in. Camera on the side there for the 360 camera. Roof rails with a sunroof there. Privacy glass, and come around to the back. You can see from that side profile where it is a little bit longer, and that's to accommodate the 7 seats in the back. You've got the L designation for this being the long wheelbase. LED tail lights in the back there. They look really cool. At night time, they light up beautifully. So you've got that sort of tiered setup. A little bit more chrome down the bottom there as well. Let me know what you reckon about the design. This car's been out for a little while now, and there is a new one coming, but I don't know, I think it still looks good. It looks completely different to everything else out on the road, and I think that's definitely a good thing. So we're inside the RX. Let's start off with the key. Here it is. So you have lock, unlock, boot, panic. Then on the back you have the Lexus logo, a little bit of metallic stuff on the side there. It's a proximity sensing key, so you can just leave that in your pocket, and then once you're inside you have a push button start just here. So being a Lexus, this kind of is a bit traditional in a sense. So you've got the old analog clock here, and I think this is a nice implementation. This looks really classy and high-end. It even has a CD player. I haven't seen these around for ages. It also has like pinstripes in the wood grain. So yeah, it's very much Lexus, this interior. If you have a look at some of the other SUVs that are about that $100,000 mark, they don't feel anywhere near as luxurious as this does. So I think that's one of the selling points of the Lexus brand. You are getting a luxury vehicle for the price of, you know, a mid-range SUV from the competitors. So big plus there. In terms of the materials, so soft touch pretty much everywhere. You've got this stitching along the top there. All of this stuff is soft to the touch as well. Nice place to rest your knee on too. Touch points, this is reasonably soft, and then door panels are reasonably soft as well. How soft are they? Well, we have our durometer. We've tested the main surfaces in this cabin. If you want to see how this car compares to others that we've tested before, have a look at the link in the description. Build quality, righto. Oh, it's a little bit loose in the center there. I was kind of expecting all of that to be nice and solid, so a little bit disappointing. What about our door test? We can have a listen to the door. Yeah, it sounds nice and solid. Now let's talk infotainment. So this looks impressive, but unfortunately it's not really that good of an infotainment system. It's a 12.3-inch screen, it's a touch screen, but it's also driven by this pad down here, and I think this pad's probably my biggest issue with it. It's just really hard to use while you're driving. You can see it's like a mouse, and then it stickies to all of these things as you float across them. And it's just really tricky to do while you're trying to concentrate on the road. In fact, let me know, if you're a Lexus owner, do you get used to this infotainment system, or is it just a bugbear that you kind of just deal with as part of ownership? Really just keen for your feedback on that. It could just be me that doesn't like it, but I'm just not really a huge fan of it. So you get inbuilt satellite navigation, and then in addition to that, you have AM, FM and DAB plus digital radio, and that's all sent through a 15 speaker Mark Levinson sound system. Sound system is excellent. The Mark Levinson stuff in Lexus vehicles is normally pretty on point. You also have the ability to connect your smartphone through smartphone mirroring. Both Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are supported. Both are wired, so you can't do a wireless setup, but it is a full screen integration, which is great. Again, driven by this touchpad, or you can use your finger to operate the screen as well. Now, in terms of Android Auto, it has that as well. Unfortunately, I can't show you it because our phone is shagged and it's not working. Head of the driver is another little display. This is for your trip computer safety systems. You can tell that this car's starting to feel a little dated. There is a brand new one coming because this has been around in Toyotas for ages now, and there are newer versions of this screen. So this all just feels a little bit old, and you can tell we're at the end of the platform for this car. Okay, moving on to safety technology. You have autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian and cyclist detection. You have blind spot monitoring built into the wing mirror, radar cruise control, lane departure warning and a lane keeping assistant, rear cross traffic alert, traffic sign recognition and a head-up display. And then in terms of parking, you have front and rear parking sensors and a 360 camera. I'll show you what that looks like. Now, you've got a couple of things you can do. You can hit the view button here, and that gives you this cool 3D view of the car. You can then select this around view as well, or when you put it into reverse, you see the rest of that reversing feature. Not the world's sharpest camera. In fact, it's really low quality. Have a look at that. You can barely make out the car behind us. This does move with the steering wheel though, and you can then select different views, but it'd be nice to see a much higher quality camera there. Now, what about practicality? And we'll start with your connectivity options. So you've got two USB-A ports with 2.1 amps of charging up the front here. You've got a 12 volt outlet, wireless phone charging. You have another two USB sockets here, plus a 12 volt outlet, plus an auxiliary socket as well. So plenty of connectivity options. Storing your phone is interesting. So you can put it on the wireless charging pad just there, or there's like this rubber socket down the front, and it sort of holds your phone into place while you're driving, so it's not going to go anywhere. Or you can pop your phone down the front there as well. So plenty of storage options. Coffee cup fits into there without any problems. Easy to get out as well. Bottle storage, no dramas in there. You've got teeth as well. This secondary slot is really cool as well, because if you have a bigger bottle, you can push that all the way down, and then you press a button there to bring it back up to its position. You have bottle storage inside the doors as well as part of that pocket. You can also fit the big bottle because there are adjustable pockets inside the door there, so the big bottle easily fits in there as well, which is cool. Other storage, you have this center console. It's nice and deep, plenty of room in there. You have a glove box over here. It's kind of all eaten away by the manual. There's not really much more room in there. And this little slot down here, plus finally a sunglasses holder up the top. What about comfort? Well, you have 3 zones of automatic climate control, 2 up the front here. You also have heated and cooled seats for the front row. I love with these seats as well in terms of comfort. Perforations for the sort of air to come through, but they hug you in nicely and they're really comfy to sit in as well. So big bonus there. There's 10-way power adjustment for both the driver and front passenger with memory. Steering wheel is electrically adjustable, so in, out, up, down. And then in terms of our reach test, that's all great. As long as you're not using this as a touchscreen, everything here is easy to reach. Second row. Look at this, what a place to be. So in terms of room, let's start with that first. Got loads of knee room. Toe room isn't great. Like it's good, but because the front seat is so far down, my toes are just kind of wedged, I can't really sort of get them in there, but headroom is okay. There's like a little divot in the roof here that gives you a little bit more space there. I love the design back here. So similar to the front, it follows on with that theme of perforated seats, and this color just works well with the interior, and you also get those deep pile carpets down here as well. It's like a bit like a Rolls Royce or something. Air vents, you have matte pockets over here. Center armrest is interesting because this is where you'll find your heated seats, so you use these buttons to switch them on. Behind here you've got 2 USB-A ports plus a little storage nook, and then you have a bottle holder there. Got 2 cup holders. Pop that out of the way. You can also put your bottle inside the door as well. The doors themselves have these shades, so you can lift that up, give yourself a little bit of privacy from the outside. as that gets stuck on the way down. Look, it is just a really nice place to be seated, and the big bonus of this 3-row SUV is your second row can slide forwards and backwards to give third row occupants a bit more accommodation. Now, speaking of third row, let's climb in there and see just how much space there is. I will caveat this firstly though by saying this is designed just for kids. So me getting in there, it's not really going to prove anything, but I just want to give you a representation of what it looks like with an adult in there so you can get that idea in your head. So to access the third row, you give this lever a pull, that pushes that all the way forward. The third row's electric, so you've got buttons down here or buttons in the boot as well. It pops both of those up. Now I will climb in. Kind of got to squeeze yourself around there. Now I will caveat this by saying as well that this seat is all the way back. If I had my seat in that position, I wouldn't have enough knee room here, but I'll bring this row back so you can see how much room there is. Igor, I don't know if you want to get a shot of how much knee room there is down there. In this position, I have enough knee room here. Toe room is reasonable. Headroom is pretty much non-existent. It's sort of in the roof just there. Off to the side, you have controls here for the third zone of climate controls. You also have air vents on both sides as well to keep everything nice and cool, and cup holders just here in the center. You've got top tether points on these 3 seats plus the seat that I'm in as well. So look, it is a kid-only space, but I think it is a nice space for kids. Let's have a look behind the third row, plus a cool feature that Lexus has implemented with these electric seats. As is often the case with these 3-row SUVs, power tailgate, there's not a great deal of room behind your third row. In this position right here, you have storage beneath the cargo floor. Not a great deal of it, but enough to put your odds and ends. You have a little over 200 litres of cargo space here, which is actually pretty impressive. Let's see if it fits our big suitcase. So this fits in theory, but when you try and close that door, it nudges on this and it won't actually shut properly. So if you went down to a carry-on size suitcase, it would fit here behind the third row, but this doesn't. Let me show you a trick though, and this will allow that suitcase to fit in. Lexus has been clever. So I mentioned earlier that you can drop these seats using buttons on the side here, but if you do want to vary the amount of room that you have, you can actually set the seat into an alternate setting, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to make the right hand side of that seat stay a little further in when it opens, so you push and hold this, and then we'll bring them back up again, and you'll see what I mean. This gives the third row passenger less leg room, but it does mean that we do have more room here in the third row. Wait for that to come up. It is very slow and laborious, this process. There it is there. So that means you get a little bit of extra space, and if you do that to both of those seats, you'll actually fit that middle-sized suitcase in without any dramas at all. So I haven't seen that before on the market, and I think it is a very clever feature. Let's get rid of these two, and I'll show you how much room there is for our bags when the third row is folded into the floor. Once that does disappear, you have a little over 400 litres of cargo space available. Pop our bags in. 1, 2, plenty of room in there. But if you do want to expand the space even further to a little over 1,600 litres, we drop the second row. That is done from the side here. And there is your big van-like cavernous space. We've just hit the road in the RX350L. Let's run through the engine. So there are 2 variants of the RX you can get. You can get the naturally aspirated V6, which is what this is, or the hybrid. And the naturally aspirated V6 is going to feel pretty familiar because this V6 has been around in Toyotas for donkey's years. And that's not saying it's a bad thing, but just something to take note of. It's a 3.5 litre naturally aspirated V6. It makes 221 kilowatts of power and 370 Newton meters of torque. And that's all mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission. So no dual clutches, just a standard torque converter. And that's what works best with this engine. It is such a, I hate using this term, but just a buttery smooth engine. Everything is just so beautifully delivered, and it's got a bit of a peaky end to it as well, so you really feel it at the top end, and this gearbox works an absolute treat with it. What's it like behind the wheel? Well, the gearbox is very smooth. It's always just transitioning through gears without any sort of realization at all. And then when you do want to punch it, it sort of gets up and goes really beautifully. So you get the responsiveness when you need it, and then as the revs pick up, you really feel it at the top end as well. So you never feel lacking in this. It's always there and ready to deliver. Lexus claims a 0 to 100 time of 8 seconds. We've put it up against our stopwatch, and this is how it went. Now you can get front wheel drive versions of this car, but this is a all-wheel drive, and that means it's an on-demand type system. So it's kind of always sending a bit of torque to the rear, but when you do have traction loss at the front, that's when it will fully activate the rear. And I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to pull over just on the verge here and just throw one tire off, and then I'll just hit the throttle, and we have a little display here that tells us exactly what's going on in terms of our torque delivery. You'll be able to see it in action. Here we go. You can see immediately there, it's pulsed to the rear so that we actually get out of there without the front wheels just spinning. So pretty handy feature to have. And you also have a button down here that allows you to lock the center differential. I don't know if it actually has a center differential, but it's apportioning 50% of torque to the front and rear. It'll be some kind of a clutch mechanism that just ensures that you're getting that equal distribution as you drive. Lexus claims fuel economy of 10.2 litres per 100 Ks. Let's have a look at how we're doing. We're currently sitting on 12.4, so look, near enough to that figure, and it's about what I'd expect for a petrol V6 in a big SUV like this. Now, in terms of your drive modes, so you've got a selector here that takes you through the 1,000 drive modes it has. So you've got Eco, Normal, Custom, Sport, Sport Plus. So I'm going to flick it over to Sport Plus. We'll just pop it through a couple of these corners. Look, it has a bit of body roll. You can really feel the body moving over as you tip it into the corner, especially on these higher speed corners. You can feel it kind of just settling into itself. And you know, the interesting thing as well, this has adaptive dampers. So in this sports setting, it's really trying to give you a firmer ride, but it's Lexus firm. So it's not back braking, it's just firm enough for you to feel that something has changed, but not over the top where you're kind of having to book in with your chiropractor. And then as the speed picks up, it actually feels nice and stable. There's no surprises there, and I'm really impressed with how that goes. Now, in terms of your normal ride though, if I pop this back into comfort, the ride itself is great. These are big wheels, and big wheels should mean a harsher ride, but they've dialed in the perfect amount of damping here to give you that luxury feel, but still give you the body control. And body control is one of those things that, look, you're probably not going to ever experience it, but if you do find yourself driving energetically, you need to have body control as you hit corners mid-bump and the car starts moving around. And this section here, we've used this in a few of our videos. It's undulations on a country road, and I'll dial up to the maximum speed here in Australia. You can see the body remains really nice and composed. In a car without body control, it's just almost about to leave the ground. In fact, some cars do at 130 leave the ground there and then bottom out again. So this is just a really nice and refined package, and they've given you just that little bit of sportiness, but it's not over the top. Now, what about the quietness inside the cabin as the rain sort of pitter-patters down? Lexus is a brand that you think of when you think of quietness and luxury, and you get that feeling behind the wheel here. The cabin is nice and quiet, it's really subdued. Yes, when the speed picks up on coarse chip roads, you will notice that you get a bit of that coming into the cabin, but for the most part, it's actually a pretty nice place to be seated. And if you are doing long distance drives, it is very quiet and relaxing, this environment. What about visibility? So the seating position is interesting. You sit sort of low. It's weird, it's sort of not like a typical SUV where you're looking down from above, you sit a little hunkered down. And that's great in terms of driving because you have full control over the car and you feel like you're in charge of everything that's going on. Visibility down the front's okay, but I can't see the edges of the bonnet there, but you do have the front parking sensors, which helps with that at low speed. The wing mirrors are huge as well, so plenty of visibility there. There's a blind spot monitor built into those, so that will light up as you get a car in the blind spot. Out the back, it's also fine. The envelope is pretty decent there, so you can clearly see what's going on. You probably won't be towing with this, but if you do, you have a 1,500 kilogram braked towing capacity. Ground clearance comes in at just under 200 millimeters. So again, nothing too outrageous. You're not going to be doing any off-road driving, but it is there if you need it. And then turning circle is 11.8 meters, which is okay. It's not too bad. The steering is nice and light as you go through that turning circle though, which is good news for low speed parking maneuvers. So the Lexus RX, I genuinely thought I wasn't going to like it at all because, no offense to older people, but I think Lexuses are sometimes for older people. What I'm finding here though is outside of the infotainment system, there really is a lot to like about this. It's good value for money for a 7-seater. Yes, it's not really adult friendly in the third row, but if you do need a 7-seater and you want something luxurious, this really does tick all the boxes. You don't have to spend mega bucks on an X5 or a GLE. And if you don't need the fuel efficiency, that petrol V6 is still kind of fun to drive. It's got a cool note to it as well. So look, it is just a fun car overall, let down by some of the tech. if that's an issue, keep in mind that this is going to be completely changed over in the next year or two, and that means that you will probably get the tech that we're now seeing roll out in the rest of Toyota's products, and it'll be released at a level that's probably higher than Toyota's products as well to fit that Lexus niche. So keep an eye on this space. Let me know down in the comments, have you bought one of these? Are you an older person or are you a younger person? Who is buying these things, and what did you cross shop? Because I always find it fascinating to see what people rejected before they bought one of the cars that we test. So if you did enjoy this video, please make sure you share it with your mates and hit the like button. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to our channel. But until next time, take it easy.